I still can't believe that I'm saying this, but in this episode, we'll be taking on either the San Jose Sharks or the Minnesota Wild in the Stanley Cup final. And I always feel bad with episodes like this that I don't have some big video to really let you know that's Stanley Cup time, but I think this more calm, for the moment, approach is the best way to go about it because it's been a long time coming. This series, people were calling for it to be over. The frustration was clearly there as this team just could not perform. We could not keep some of our top players due to basically everybody wanting out and refusing to resign every year, so we just could not get manageable contracts for the most part. We couldn't get players to develop for the most part because of, or at least consistently, because of how the development works this year. And you look at this, the four horsemen of disappointment here in terms of their potential to where they've developed to. But all of that has led to this. We have gone on this magical run when we least expected it, and we are now just 4 wins away from achieving the goal we always set out to accomplish with one of these series, and that is to be champions. The question is, will Minnesota force Game 7, or will we be taking on the Sharks in what would be incredibly ironic given the other series that we currently have going on? Minnesota forces 7. So we will get our answer right here and right now. Is it San Jose or is it Minnesota? And the question is, who would I rather prefer it to be? And we're going to take a look at both teams right now. If it is the Minnesota Wild, that is what we are up against. A top line of Edward Peluso, who was the very first number 1 pick. So I believe the year we took Nazarov, Edward Peluso went number 1. He is alongside a 34-year-old Morgan Geekie, great flow, of course, and Brad Lambert. So obviously, as far as the top line goes, in terms of traditional setup, Morgan Geekie is not what you would expect overall-wise, but he is a regular Brody Appleby with an ungodly puck skills category as a two-way. The second line is Brendan Perlini. You wouldn't expect much out of him at that overall, but he's been tremendous for them this postseason, next to Anthony Cirelli and Kirill Kaprizov at 36 years old. So again, that second line, maybe in terms of overall, is not what you would expect, but they're getting it done. You have Kyle Cernkovic, also there, Marcos Linzen, former second-round pick of the Sabres, and Jackson Lang, who's a former first round pick of the Sharks. And on the fourth line, Alexei Mkluka, next to Blake Spears and Alan McShane. It's not the best lineup we've ever seen, but it's working out tremendously well for them. Defensively, Max Lajoie and Josh Mahora are the top pairing. Johan Sundin, former first-round pick of the Kings, and AJ Koslaki, former first-round pick of the Flyers. Third pairing, Travis Dermott and Silas Osborne. The goaltender is 90 overall Nicholas Tarnqvist, who is actually playing like a highly rated goaltender. So I guess he didn't get the memo about a weak team in front of him means he can't do well. He is doing very, very well. No injuries, but Vladislav Kolyachinok is there. I think I butchered that enough. I would be afraid to play Minnesota because we stack up very well against them. Very, very well. Against the Sharks, at least in terms of forwards, we stack up very well against them as well. You have Timo Meier now at 36 years old, butts out in the desert himself, Austin Matthews at 35 years old, and Kevin Labanc, still a Shark as well. 10 goals in 16 games. Second line is Tyler Reeves, former first-round pick of the Blues. Cole Caulfield was 13 goals in 16 games. And Mario Goulet, former third-round pick a couple of years ago with a really good potential. Jan Mysak. That's not awkward. Former Mariner that we just couldn't keep. He never quite replicated some of the success that he had with this team. He's on that third line next to Freddie Steen, former second-round pick of the Blues, and Artem Tarasov, former third-round pick of the Wild. The fourth line is Jonathan Berggren, next to Casper Simon-Taival and Brandon Cruz. We stack up very well there, too. They have some game changers for sure. Defensively, so we're hoping for Minnesota. Unless you think being the underdog helps, because in which case we're the underdog if you look at this defense. Larry Cron, third overall 2 years ago for the Sharks, 88 overall at 20 years old, next to 32-year-old Ryan Merkley. Dwight Martindale, former Steel from the Dallas Stars, is next to Juuso Valimaki. Luis Greilinger, former first-round pick of the Sharks, is next to Cyrus Leduc, another former first-round pick of the Sharks. The goaltender is Brad Summers, who is also doing pretty damn well with a .913. No injuries, of course, but a couple of healthy scratches. Who should we be hoping for? In theory, Minnesota. But just because we have them beat on paper, it doesn't mean much. The Mariners will be taking on the Minnesota Wild in the Stanley Cup Final. We have home ice advantage. And on paper, we stack up very, very well. And that scares me. We won the Eastern Conference. San Jose won the West and the President's Trophy by 1 point, and it seemed like we were on a collision course, but instead, we play Minnesota, who finished 9th in the league this season. Not a pushover of a team by any stretch, but this is ours to lose, and that really scares me. In this postseason, San Jose was averaging over 4 goals against per game, yet somehow lost. Our offense is a little bit more prolific than the Minnesota defense. The goaltending is relatively close. The power play, 36% for us. That has to continue because they have an efficient power play as well. Their penalty kill, though, has the edge. So time will tell on that front. 8-2 at home thus far. This is it. And it's really starting to set in. We're about to play in the Stanley Cup Final. You've already seen their team. You know what they just overcame. Maybe we're not the favorites. Maybe we're not. I mean, offensively we are. Defensively it's close. The goaltending is relatively close as well. This is crazy. But it's finally happening. Now, I don't know if this goes poorly or even if we win, if this is it for this series. Obviously, we're getting real close to having to start new ones. I've started the roster updating process as far as, getting everything done and set up for the next series. So we're close to the end of the line. This might be our one and only chance. Brody Appleby has to keep doing what he's doing. Grigorenko has to continue scoring. Joakim Kamel needs to be the player that we have seen thus far. Kostopoulos has gotten better. Hopefully he can keep going. Paul Cato has been an amazing surprise, and Alex Holtz needs to continue to do what Alex Holtz is capable of. And that third line, it's not the most prolific offensively, but Daniel Samard, the 6 goals in 18 games, isn't bad. The one thing I'm worried about is Boris Nazarov's penalty inclination. He does have an 85 in discipline, though, so I'm tempted to check his fighting consistency. And then that fourth line, there hasn't been much there offensively. They're not brutal defensively, though. They are very useful players to have. We could go with Konopka or Jovanovski if we needed to, but let's be honest. The team that's gotten us here is the team that's going to see this through one way or another. And defensively, Montgomery, maybe a little bit better. Trafford's been great. And for as much as they didn't develop, I mean, hey, now's the time. Now is the time to prove yourselves. And Dominic Grosek has had a very interesting stint with this team where it just didn't look like he was going to be the guy. but he has been amazing. Judging by the average save percentages here, he has been amazing. And we're going to need to continue to have him play at that high of a level if we're going to win this. We are four wins away from a Stanley Cup and being able to end this series on a high note one way or another. And by that I mean even if we do look to defend our titles, or our title, if we were to win it, we know the series isn't going that much longer. And if we were to decide to end it and I just focus solely on the whole roster updating side of things, then I think I'd be okay with that. But for now, it's time to find out what's going to happen. Game 1 on home ice. I so wish I could jump into the game to see the opening intro and then jump back out into the sim like you can kind of do in Madden, but you can't do that on NHL. So here we go. The Stanley Cup Final. Game 1, first period, advantage to the Mariners of Grigorenko. Oh, Grigorenko scores on the power play. 17 shots to 14. Defense, what defense? But we have the difference maker thus far. It was an early goal, just over 4 minutes in, 4:08 to be exact, for Grigorenko, who looked like he was going to disappoint us so early on in this playoff run. Second period, Paul Cato with 9 seconds left. Oh, God. Oh, man. We're up 2-0. Heading into the third. Let's do this. Power play early from Minnesota. An extended power play that's ultimately killed off. Can we get insurance? Can we hold on? Power play for the Mariners also goes to waste as we're over the halfway point of the period. Under 9 minutes left. Dominic Grosek. Alex Holtz makes it 3 from an impossible angle. Dominic Grosek shuts out the Minnesota Wild in Game 1. 35 shots apiece, but 3-0 on the board. We are 3 wins away from a Stanley Cup. Holtz with a big game. Grosek living up to that potential, standing on his head with a 35 save shutout. And so far, so good in this series. We have a long way to go. But right now it's looking okay. Are we ready for Game 2? I don't know if I am. No lineup changes necessary. So many questions. What version of this team is going to show up for this game here? I hope it's the right version. First period of Game 2, the Stanley Cup Final. Maine versus Minnesota. God, yes! Alex Holtz, Gage Melnick, and Brendan Long. If I botched any names, we'll lose the series for sure. It's 3-0 at the end of the first period. 3 goals on 12 shots. And we are getting the Tarnkvist early. Maybe that defense, just slightly weaker defense on paper than San Jose, just can't hold up to the offensive onslaught that this team was designed to bring forth. Second period. Oh my sweet mother of God. Oh my God. I should have had webcam for this. I'm sorry. Like, I'm just sitting here, jaw on the floor, stunned. Paul Cato with a hat trick in 13 minutes. Joel Stamkos adds a 4th. It's 7-0 at the end of 40 minutes of play. Oh my God. To the third we go. Power play. Kamel makes it 8. How did we put up 8 on this goal? 9 goals! Nasir Kostopoulos on the power play. I don't know what the fuck. Oh my God. Oh my God, I said the power play had to keep going. Dominic Gross. What is happening right now? A 9-0 victory in Game 2. Another shutout for Dominic Grosek. This time 33 saves rather than 35. Yet Paul Cato and Alex Holtz, who, they've had a fun 2 games. They get the first 2 stars. Dominic, don't you worry, buddy. I appreciate what the hell you just did for us. Oh my God, what just happened? 4 points apiece for the members of the second line. Appleby and Kamel with 3 points each. That would be the power play for you. Although, the power play goal for Kamel. How many people failed to register a point? Not many. Montgomery, Kavanaugh, Korobov, Benson, Simard, and Stewart. So, I'm stunned. You saw the weakened defense, but you look at that goaltender and you say, yeah, we might have trouble. Instead, we put up 12. We outscored them 12-0 over the course of 2 games. And there was a comment, it was on the Sharks series, because things might be looking up there too. No spoilers, where people are like, a lot of results lately. Trust me, I couldn't deal with watching this team fail more times than once to try and script proper results. Simply couldn't do it. Because you've seen how I've handled the failure of this so far. I just hope it's not too good to be true. Please, God, don't let this be too good to be true. I am so afraid we're going to have a series that's tied at 2 apiece by the end of this trip to Minnesota. It's Game 3. No changes necessary for one side. All the changes in the world necessary for the other. Here we go. First period of Game 3, and for the first time in this series, the Wild have scored a goal. Alexei Makluka gets it done. Dominic Grosek is, in fact, human. Now, we had a much better record at home than on the road, so this does scare me a little bit. And hopefully we can bounce back here. Second period, 2-1 Minnesota. Osborne made it 2, but Boris Nazarov, the captain, the longest tenured member of this team, gets us back to within 1 with 35 seconds left in the period. Third period, here we go. Here we go. The shots were even. Entering the period, the next goal, if there is one, is obviously so important. Power play goes to waste. That's not a good sign. That's not a good sign. 6. St. Trafford scores. We are tied. Are we destined for overtime? Kirill Kaprizov gets it right back. The Minnesota Wild. Power play goal from Lambert. The Wild do survive. Our struggles away from home continue as Grosek gives up 4 in a 4-2 loss. Tarnqvist with a return to form. And ultimately, that's the game that we were afraid of, as just 6 players registered a point. And unfortunately, that some of our big-name players are the ones who struggled. That second line, Holtz, Kostopoulos, Cato, and then that top D pairing. That can't happen. That can't happen, and we're not going to win. Case in point, we go from outscoring them 12-0 to being outscored 4-2 in Game 3. And now the fear is really setting in that Game 4, if this goes poorly, this series is absolutely up in the air. And you guys know how much this game loves to have a 2-0 and then a 2-2 in terms of series standards, guidelines, situations, scenarios. Call it what you will. Game 4. Game 4. Here we go. Here we go. This is the biggest game in this series history. This is the biggest game that this team has played to this date. A win sees us move to within 1 win away from the Cup. A loss in this series is right back up for grabs. First period, 1 goal apiece. Isaac Benson on the fourth line. Kyle Zernkovic gets it back. Not sure if I'm saying his name correctly. The shots were about even. The score is even. Still anybody's game, as Grosek again has looked human on the road. Would have been interesting to see a goalie get a shutout all the way through. Steal all 4 games in the Cup final. That didn't happen. Second period. So Paul Cato's going to the Channel Hall of Fame. Now, for NHL 19, I dropped the ball a little bit with the Channel Hall of Fame. I can admit to that, right? I did. I dropped the ball a little bit with the Channel Hall of Fame last year. It's something I love doing because that way you can simply look back at that and say, okay, these were the standouts. You don't have to watch the entire series, back to know that. But in the New Jersey series, and I mean, we had short-lived series like Arizona and Edmonton. We had the Hurricanes series, the Finnish Nations United. Were there any Hall of Famers? Maybe there were Hall of Famers from the Golden Seals series or the Vegas series that we started off with last year. In fairness, yeah, maybe there were Hall of Famers last year in Vegas and California and with Carolina that I might not, and maybe even Finland, that I might not have given proper credit to. You will never forget the name Paul Cato, goddammit. He is not quite in Frederick McDonough territory from Draft to Glory Goon Squad. He's not quite in Nolan Patrick territory from the original Draft to Glory, or Thatcher Demko from the Canucks series back in the day, or so many names and faces from rebuilding Hockeytown back in the day. But Paul Cato, and Joakim Kamel for that matter. The second... We're up 6-2 at the end of the second period is what I'm trying to tell you. Kamel scores. Kaprizov ties it. And then we go off. Cato, a minute later Kamel, and then Cato completes his second period hat trick of this series already. With 50 seconds to go as Tarnqvist was pulled. 2 of those goals on the power play. We go to the third. 20 minutes away. Joakim Kamel has a hat trick. It's 7-2. Pelusos gets one back. We're still up by 4. We are so close to winning the Stanley. Kostopoulos on the power play. 8-3 is your final. 40 shots to 25 as we take over after that first period. The Mariners of Maine. This team, like I said, built upon the foundation of all-out offense, is 1 win away from the Stanley Cup after all of those struggles, all of the names and faces that we had to see leave this team. So many changes year in and year out. So many players that disappointed and didn't get the job done. And now, somehow, some way, Dominic Grosek wasn't even great that game, but it was good enough. Somehow, some way, we are 1 win away from the Stanley Cup, and we have 3 opportunities to seal the deal. Absolutely unbelievable. And I mean, seriously, I don't remember where every player went. But you look at Ivan Afinoganov leaving this team. Just the goalies that left this team. I mean, obviously there's our boy on the Rangers there that we made it past. But so many changes. So many names and faces that we were hopeful would be the player for us, the players to bring this team success. Fucking Cyrus Dastles. Man, maybe we don't have too many goalies that were actually in those spots. It felt like we had a ton of talented goalies. I don't know. Maybe some of them are rotting away on the free agent list. Maybe they are. The bottom line is, we're one win away. This team, this beautiful, beautiful team. If Menulag accidentally simmed that game, I would have died if we had won. Paul Cato. Paul fucking Cato is a hero. Let's do this. One win away. Can we get the job done? Can we seal the deal right here, right now? Game 5, home ice. The cup is in the building. Can we... The question is, can we survive all the struggles that we went through with the players, with not having great drafts, the lack of development, players wanting to leave, this series looking like it was going to be as big of a failure as the undrafted challenge was, because that just simply doesn't work in this game. Can we make it happen? Here we go. Let's do this. First period of game 5. Advantage to the Mariners. Oh my god, everything's clicking, guys. Finally. Fucking finally. Everything's clicking. Zane Trafford and Paul Cato. We're up 2-0 heading into the second. Speaking of which, second period, we're tied, and I had a feeling. That's why you could kind of hear it in my tone. I'm like, oh, this isn't going to be good. McCluke on the power play and Kirill Kaprizov tie it. 31 shots to 22 for the Wild, but we are tied on the board as we go to the third period. Obviously, the next goal is important. It could just crown a Stanley Cup champion. Here we go. Power play for the Wild. It's killed off. Who is that next goal going to belong to? We are halfway through. 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. Joakim Kamel scored! What? I paused, and he scored. We're up 3-2. We are 2 minutes away from winning the Stanley Cup. Joakim Kamel just scored. I paused and he scored. I paused and he still scored, and it almost simmed, but it didn't. It's okay. It almost simmed further than it was. Joakim Kamel just scored. We are moments 113 away from winning the cup. Peluso shoots it wide. Joel Stamkos to Alex Holtz. 1 minute. 1 minute away. Apparently it's Kerslake, not Kerslake. Good to know. Paul Cato recovers. Cato over the line. Paul Cato back to the corner, throws it in front, and there's a penalty. Cato gets decked. We're 44 seconds away, and we're going on the power play. Paul Cato's buried in the corner by Sundin. Johan Sundin to the box. Kamel, Appleby, and Kostopoulos out. We are 43 seconds away. Wasn't it 44? I don't even know anymore. Lindzen has it for the Wild. Goalie is pulled. Puck dumped in. Recovered by Anthony Cirelli. Back to the points. Peluso, Lajoie. Now Cirelli. 28 to go. Montgomery, Appleby, Nasir Kostopoulos. Trafford misses wide. Under 20 to go. Linson for the Wild. Over the line. Gets decked. The Wild recover. It's Peluso. 10 seconds. Trafford for Kamel. Turns it over. 4, 3, 2. Cirelli. God in heaven. We have won the Stanley Cup.
When they get a close look at this trophy, they'll see all those names engraved on it. And then one day, it's going to be on it very soon.
Draft to Glory is not a failure anymore. It's still possible. Oh, God, it's still possible. The chemistry system hasn't forever killed this concept. It can still be done. My baby's not dead. Draft to Glory lives. The offense team has overcome 1,000 obstacles and have won the Stanley Cup in 5 games over the Wild, who somehow beat the Sharks. We just won the Stanley Cup. Look at that Tash. I don't even know who number 77 is. Oh man, this bet it's not even. It's Joakim Kamel, and I can't disagree with it. His stat line was wrong, which sucks, but Joakim Kamel absolutely deserves it. Oh my God. If not him, then Paul Cato or Grosek. Here it is, man. The sound design still needs a lot of work for this animation, but god damn it, I'd never thought. I was legitimately considering ending this series a while ago. I never thought we'd see this. So as much as the sound design needs work, Boris friggin' Nazarov skates to center ice. Boris Nazarov is about to raise the Stanley Cup with the Mariners. The crowd's dead silent. But it doesn't matter. He was the OG. He stayed. He saw. He raises the cup. Somehow Kavanaugh gets the damn cup second. That's fine. Fourth liner. You really should be able to choose the order. But it's okay. Montgomery gets it. How the hell have you not given the cup to Paul Cato yet? That's a disgrace. That is a disgrace. All the names and faces that we saw leave. Okay, Montgomery, Jesus Christ, give it to Paul Cato. Probably Grosek. I really don't know how the AI, or how it decides the order of who the hell gets it, but goddamn. And you made fun of his hair. Can you see now, Dominic? Can you see your reflection in that beautiful trophy? He might not be able to. The hair might still be in his eyes. The fucking hair on 61. We just won the Stanley Cup. Dominic Grosek with 45 saves. Joakim Kamel does what Joakim Kamel do. All-out offense. Just won a Stanley Cup. Joakim Kamel with, look at that. Look at that. I need to go to awards right now. I can't yet. The AHL season's not even over. I can't believe, of all the years, despite the regular season success, it still felt like we were underdogs. We beat the Rangers in 6. We beat the Leafs in 7. And from there, we cruise. We beat the Islanders in 5. And we beat the Wild in 5, who had played 3 straight Game 7s en route to the final, and they just simply ran out of gas. Absolutely incredible. 23 games, 16 wins, 3.78 goals for per game. Thank God we didn't run into the Sharks. Goals against was at a 2.52. Who said this team can't succeed with only offensive defensemen and goaltenders? You see what I mean? Those were all excuses. I told you that the team could do it. They were just choking, and that's why it didn't matter about line changes or personnel changes. The old players were chokers. This team proved it. We scored 27 power play goals. We had a 34% power play through the postseason. Jesus, mother of God. Oh my God, an 81% penalty kill. We weren't exactly, we had one shorthanded goal. 11-2 at home, 5-5 on the road. Home ice advantage mattered so much. And ultimately was the difference maker. So there you go. Don't tell me home ice doesn't matter. Because apparently it does. Because look at what just fucking happened. Oh my God. Joakim Kemell is a legend. We called upon him for these past few seasons to be that much more important, and he answered the call. And he is going to go down as one of the most prolific playoff performers we've ever had. 57 points in 46 games, but you look at what he did on this run, 15 of those 31 points on the power play. Legend. Joakim Kemell is a legend. It didn't work in the Finnish series. It's worked here. Joakim Kemell is a fucking hero. Paul Cato is a goddamn hero. The second-year pro, 50-point season, has 25 points in 23 games with 16 goals, 5 of them on the power play. He was great last year, too. And then this year, just magic. And Alex Holtz, someone I was absolutely, and you see favored coaches there, trust me, I'm not overlooking the coaching staff. We'll get there. Someone who at one point I was considering trading. And it was right around this time where it just wasn't enough. We held on to him. And he finally lived up to his potential. And only 7 of those points were on the power play. He scored 5 game-winning goals. 5. Nearly up to 1,000 points in his career. He'll pass that next season. Brody Appleby. Point a game. The best pure playmaker I think we have ever had in any series. Period. Absolutely ridiculous. And to his credit, Nasir Kostopoulos, he overcame a very slow start after a career season. He overcame a very slow start in these playoffs and woke up and helped carry that second line. He was not carried. He was a big part of its success. Vyacheslav Grigorenko. In the regular season, an amazing goal scorer. In the playoffs, not so much, but still had 20 points in 23 games. It was enough. And then Boris Nazarov, the OG. Not what he used to be, but the leader that we needed. No doubt about it. Daniel Samard, from that point on, the numbers do drop off a bit. But Samard and Ritchie played their roles next to Nazarov, and the fourth line played their role as well. They at least weren't detrimental. And to have players, of third line caliber out on the fourth line is very helpful. Defensively, Zane Trafford. I mean, there's a certain Doughty that comes to mind for defensemen that didn't make it, but Zane Trafford made it, man. He made it. Absolutely, and Montgomery did his job as well. And again, this group, you wouldn't think with that core that we'd pull it off. But we did. We did. And then Dominic Grosek. Out of all the goaltenders that we attempted to have be the ones carry us to victory, he was the one that ultimately got it done. Unbelievable. 2 shutouts in the Stanley Cup final. Unbelievable. This team, of all teams, was the one to finally get it done. And we're done here. I didn't even notice that the AHL team won the Calder Cup. We just pulled off the double. And I wasn't even paying attention. I said I felt bad that I wasn't paying attention. We just won the Stanley Cup and the Calder Cup in the same season. It's not the first time it's happened, but under these circumstances of a Draft to Glory challenge that didn't look like it was going to work. And the worst part is all the stats aren't even going to be there because it would have automatically bumped up guys like Jovanovski. I feel so bad for ignoring that team. But we just pulled off the double. The Stanley Cup, the Calder Cup. A banner year for this franchise, to say the very, very least. The Conn Smythe. We just upset the 2-time defending champions too, didn't we? We just beat the 2-time defending Cup champions in the final in 5 games, while also winning the Calder Cup. I don't blame people for thinking that I scripted this. I don't blame people at all, because all of this is too goddamn good to be true. The most incredible season for so many different reasons. Just absolutely unbelievable. Who was the MVP of the playoffs? It was Bathgate in goal. Absolutely incredible. That is the only way to describe it. And the head coach that got us there, Adan Chan, the 66-year-old, one of the best coaches you can hope to get. And he is a 3-time Stanley Cup champion. He won it with Tampa twice. Actually, might have won it with Buffalo from the start. I don't remember if Buffalo won in season 1 or not. Unreal, man. Absolutely unreal. Literally everything that season went right for us. Everything. And God damn it if it wasn't a long time coming. Angelo Bathgate is the MVP of the playoffs after posting a .931 save percentage. He only lost 6 games out of 21. We did not give that team the attention that they deserved. But when you look at that team, you wouldn't expect a team of that caliber to do as well as they did. I mean, you do have the likes of Rudy Jovanovski, who did go down as a big disappointment at the NHL level, but is a beast at the AHL level, and he was a beast in the playoffs. Konopka, of course, was there too. Had a 66-point season, 18 points in 21 games. Part of me wants to see if we can defend our title. The other part of me just wants to walk away into the goddamn sunset, because it does not get any better than pulling off the double and beating the 2-time defending Cup champions in the final to do it. There are some players who just solidified themselves as channel legends. this team in general solidified themselves as channel legends. I don't have the words at this point beyond what's already been said. All-out offense, one way or another, even if we do another season to see if we can defend our title. All-out offense was a success. And thank God, because it had been a long time. It had been a long time in between successful runs. So guys, if that is it, I thank you for supporting this series. If it's not it, I'll see you in the next one. But one way or another, let's look at it one more time. Big picture. Big screen. Full screen that bitch. Finally. We won a damn Stanley Cup.